r/EntitledParents, episode 33. M hits my car and blames me for drunk driving. Long read, beautiful ending. I apologize, but I'm writing this on mobile day rsry for mistakes. So a little backstory: I have a really nice grey Land Cruiser that looks like a monster truck, and it costs a lot of money, not because of the car itself, but mostly the parts inside of it. I live in a pretty good neighborhood, but it happens to be right next to the most busy road in my area. Also, I was underage when it comes to drinking, so I have never had alcohol in my life, unless I was at church. So let's meet the cast. M. Horrifying excuse for a mom park. Poor kid not really playing a part in this story. P.O. Police officer Aka, my guardian angel, me. Most lucky guy in the world. Alright, let's start. So I get a message from my co-worker saying that there is a problem at work and I'd better come over. I work at a computer repair shop, so if there's a problem where they have to call me, and it is usually $100 or $1,000 problem that requires most hands on deck. So I get out of my house, get in my Land Cruiser, and drive off in a bit of a rush. A few minutes pass and I'm about 3 miles away from work. I stop at a red light in this really busy intersection on the most busy fucking road in the entire country. There are car crashes here almost every other day. On time it happened twice in one day, so it is no surprise that I got into one at this intersection. So the light turned green and I was in rush, so I was well in front of the cars beside me. Then just as I'm about to clear the intersection, a big red minivan T-bones me, and we both go sliding in different directions. Me not as much, because my car is much heavier than hers. I almost passed out because of shock, and looked out my window to see who dropped a missile strike to the right of my car. I get out of my car, and it is in pretty bad shape. There is a huge dent right next to the passenger side door, and the glass is broken on the mirror. Luckily nothing else that is visible. Enter M and park. M, what were you doing, trying to drive ahead like that on red light? You could have killed me or my baby in that crash, and we have a very important birthday to go to. Me, I'm sorry, but it was a green light for me, not for you, and I had the right of way. M, in a quiet accusatory tone, no, you didn't have the right of way, we had the right of way, not you. Me, explain to me how you had the right of way. M, I don't have to explain to you, you drunk asshole. Once again, underage, never drank in my life. Are you going to pay for my car, or what? Her car, the red minivan, looks almost like the front of it was blown up then rammed by 100 bulls and a couple wrecking balls. I'm honestly surprised that she and her son survived, because the driver's seat headrest was impaled by a piece of metal. Satan is most likely protecting his hellspawn from any harm, so she can be the biggest Karen this world has ever seen. Me, no, you are going to pay for it along with the damage you did to my car. This was the wrong thing to say. M, excuse me, you drunk bastard, you honestly think I'm going to pay for your shitty ass truck that you and your drinking buddy probably pulled out of a trash pile? Me, yes bitch, again also wrong thing to say. M, how dare you treat me like that in front of my kid, you stupid piece of shit. My darling should never be exposed to your potty mouth. Your mother probably left you for dead because you were the most ugly piece of shit in the whole family of 20 kids in the orphanage that you currently live in. Got tired of your bullshit, so they gave you $100 to got by this piece of shit lump of metal with wheels. Me, angry as hell. That is it, I'm calling the cops if someone hasn't already done so. Park, mommy, please stop harassing him, he's done nothing wrong. M, he's done everything wrong. About 10 minutes later of yelling, 3 cop cars and an ambulance arrive. P.O. Excuse me sir, what happened here? Me, well I was M. It was horrible officer, this man was drunk driving. Once again I was clearly underage and ran a red light which was clearly visible and almost killed me and my baby. Me, that is not true officer, this woman is clearly lying to you. You can see that I'm sober and there were a ton of witnesses to the accident and what ensued, and they can tell you that she is in the wrong. P.O. Well, I might as well check both of you and the security cameras. There were security cameras in the intersection that recorded everything. M. clearly seeing that she was going to get caught. "Oh, there's no need of doing that, we will just exchange info and PO. I'm sorry ma'am, but it is required that I know what happened and which of you is in the wrong, so we will be watching the cam footage together." The police officer found the accident and saw that M was clearly running a red light and she was speeding by at least 20 miles over the limit. The limit was 50. He then checks us both with a breathalyzer and I'm completely sober, but she, SRY, couldn't remember the exact number, was the equivalent of, quoting the police officer, having both eyes closed and driving with your feet drunk. They even found a bottle of Jack Daniels in the passenger side backseat half empty. However, the best part is still to come. Turns out she was never going to a birthday party, she was actually leaving the city. Oh, why, you ask? Because turns out she had 3 pouches of cocaine, worth maybe $2,000, in her trunk. Does it end there? No. She was packing heat and quite a bit for my state. That's right, police found a loaded handgun and a 6-inch switchblade in the center console. Combine all of that, and you get $5,600 in repairs to my car and a couple thousand more or reprimands, 10.5 years in prison, 3 years on probation, and plenty of parenting classes. Not to mention the several $100 speeding ticket she received before they found the drugs and weapons. Ek was sent to his blood father, who actually divorced his mother because of the drugs and her alcoholism. Personally, I wouldn't even call that waste of human potential a mother. She brought her only son on a drug trafficking trip. Sorry that this story is a little long, I wanted to list every detail possible. My car is now fully repaired and me and that PO are good friends now and talk about this incident often. Thank you for reading. Edit. Alright, just because I forgot to say this in original post. Thank God none of the expensive parts in my car were damaged. The engine was fine, the suspension was perfect, and the springs were intact. Another edit. Also, the reason the kid was with the mom even after the divorces, because she was illegally taking him with her. I don't know what she got for that, but I know it is bad. Also, if you guys think this story is fake, you'd be wrong. I experienced this firsthand, and it is horrifying. The only reason you guys say it's fake is because you don't know how many things that seem fake actually happen. Everything happens eventually. I will post a picture as soon as I can. I'm on vacation and don't have a picture readily available. Real life Karen loses it at barber shop and doesn't understand modern technology. This happened to this past weekend. I was in need of haircut and decided to head out to my local national chain barber shop. As, like most people, I'm not a fan of lines. I did online check-in to put myself in the queue before I drove to the barber shop. The shop does not take appointments, just online and walk-in check-ins. Upon arrival, I notice I'm first in the queue. While looking for my name on the digital board, I notice a name 4 or 5 down the list that said Karen +2. Being a fan of this board, I quietly snickered at this. The online check-ins have a symbol next to their name. Karen's did not, but everyone in front of her did. I sit down, and the only other person in the shop is a woman, obviously a literal Karen, sadly without the haircut, would have been perfect, and her 3 kids. There were no barbers available, but after a minute or two, one became free, and, as I was at the top of the queue, they called my name and I took my seat. As I moved to take my seat, Karen, in pure Karen voice and fashion, shouted at the barber, "Excuse me. I was here first. My children need haircuts, so I should go next." The barber informed Karen that the queue fills with people who do digital check-ins and walk-ins in the order they are received, and you don't need to be present to take your place in the queue via digital check-in. Karen huffed and puffed a bit, but eventually sat down in anticipation that she would be next. If that were the end of it, I probably wouldn't have bothered posting, but moments later 2 of the remaining queue members who checked in digitally and were in front of Karen and her kids arrived and took their place. When the next barber called the digital queue member's name, Karen lost it and went on a full-scale rant. She ranted against modern technology, the lack of respect for working mothers, and, the cherry on top, How customer service has changed for the worse in a world full of millennials who are always on their phone, making their lives easier like, checking in at the barber shop to save time. Karen proceeded to take her shaggy-haired brood and left. I asked the barber cutting my hair if that happened frequently, and she said more than you'd think, with an eye roll. And that, my friends, is the story of how Karen's kids failed to receive a haircut because she doesn't understand technology. M thinks her child with a sprained ankle is worse than me in and out of consciousness. I've been reading this subreddit for a while and I just remembered an encounter I had with an M. I'm on mobile and I'll try to use correct grammar. TL, doctor at the end M, entitled Mother NK, nice kid me, I don't really say anything mom, my mommin, awesome nurse TC, doctors, this part is pretty important to the story, so, about 2 years ago, September 15th, 2017, my mom and dad had taken me to the hospital, because I was extremely sick. Like I had huge bags under my eyes, I had lost 20 pounds in 5 days, my joints were poking out, and I had no energy. On the way to the hospital, my parents had to make sure I was staying awake in fear of me passing out. I forgot to mention, I was also constantly thirsty and peeing a lot. We get there, and they see I'm in a very bad condition. My parents had to help me walk, so they brought me wheelchair, so they could push me to the ER. They looked at me and asked my parents if it's okay to check my blood sugar. My mom gave the okay and the DC checked my blood sugar. They came back and told my mom that I had ketoacidosis, which is a diabetes-caused disease. They then told my parents that my blood sugar was 498, that's bad, and that I had type 1 diabetes. This broke my parents' heart and my mom started crying, but they were more heartbroken because I had to check my blood and give myself shots. Enter the M. This one was the best woman I have ever met. She was making sure I was comfortable while other nurses set up a room for me in the ICU, talking to me, asking how school was going, etc. So, M was on the other side of the room, which was separated by a curtain. She had come in before me. A lot of doctors were making sure how bad my condition was, checking if the room was almost done, ECT. Then the M makes a mistake. M, excuse me. You need to tend to my son. We were here first. DC, we are aware of that ma'am, but this patient is going in and out of consciousness. M, I don't care. My son is more important. DC, ma'am, this child is on a life or death situation and your child only has a hurt ankle. This stupid cow said this. M, I don't care if that child is dying. Tend to my son. Now. And, ma'am, I'm going to say this once and only once. Shut the F up. This child is on the verge of dying. Her parents are in absolute despair and you have the nerve to say your child needs to be helped first because of a hurt ankle? M, how dare one. If you bother us one more time, I can and will call the police on you for harassment against a patient and the hospital staff. The M finally shut her trap and left us alone. Bless that nurse, man. I got put into ICU, got taken out after 1.5 days, got put into the children's section. I was 11 and was there for 6 days until I finally went back home. It's been a good 2 years since I was diagnosed, and I'm lucky that I didn't die from ketoacidosis and dying from not having enough insulin. Some diabetics die from rationing out their insulin because they can't afford it. That's the end of this story. TL, Dr. M thinks that her child's hurt ankle is more important than me about to die if I don't get medical attention as soon as possible. Awesome nurse tells her off and I survive. Edit. OMG, thank you guys for almost 700 upvotes. It's only been 5 hours. Thank you guys so much. Edit 2. OMG, thank you guys so much for over 2000 upvotes. And thank you kind stranger for the silver. I love you all so much, and I appreciate it. Thank you. M tries to rip my friend's hearing aid off. So this story is my friend's story, so I will be telling it like it is her talking, first person. So I'm deaf. I have been since birth. At this point of the story, I had recently got hearing aids. If you don't know, hearing aids take a few weeks, even months to get accustomed to. Now onto the story. Around this time, I was moving from my old apartment to my current house, and I was told to put something in the mover's truck. After I was done, I got those key cards you use to scan and get into the apartment. No, I wasn't looking, but apparently there was a mom and kid behind me. So I just opened the door for myself and walked off. Now, I would like to note as well that, since I'm adjusting to the hearing aid, this means that some noises can get loud for me. Behind me, I hear someone yell "excuse me," which not gonna like, hurts my ear a bit. I turn around, and there stood M and her child who looked about 10 or 11. Me, "Hi, sorry, is there something wrong?" M, "You nearly hit my son and I with the door, you should have been more careful." Me, "Oh, I'm really sorry ma'am. M, maybe if you took out that stupid Bluetooth out of your ear, maybe you would be able to know what is going on around you." I was confused as first, then I realized she was talking about my hearing aid. Me, "Oh no, ma'am, this is a hearing aid." M, "Don't lie to me, I know that is a Bluetooth, my friend has one." I knew this conversation was not going to fix what she thought, so I just shrugged her off. You would think that this story would be over, but this is a Karen we are taking about. As I'm about to leave, the lady says, "M, you know, since you attacked us with that door, you should give that Bluetooth as compensation." Now, I'm not sure what thought process she was going on and how dumb she was, but I should have expected it. Me, "What? No, it is hearing aid." M, "Don't lie to me. Give it to me." Her kid stepped in and being a genius said, "Kid, mom, that is a hearing aid, she needs it." M, "Shut up kid, now give me your Bluetooth." M then grabs my shoulders and tries to rip the hearing aid off me. I tried to push her away, and her kid tried pulling her off me, but M was determined to get my hearing aid. It was also hurting a bit from the hearing aid. Luckily, a person who lives in the apartment, who also is my mom's friend, saw what was happened and went to get the landlord. I was really shaken up and began to cry. The landlord was called and threatened to call the cops for harassment on M and banned her. She didn't live at the apartment. Thank goodness I moved that very day. Edit, made a typo. Also thanks for my first silver. Parents can't use a parent's room. Obligatory on mobile warning. Grammar is not the best, neither is my spelling, and autocorrect is messed up. I never thought I'd have a post to put up here, but well, here we are. This happened last night, and I'm still fuming from it. Backstory. Coming back from my holiday house with my nearly 5-month-old son and my partner, it's a 4-hour long drive, so we needed to stop halfway to feed and change my boy and get some food for ourselves. We decided to stop at Macca's. I'm Aussie, we shorten everything. Cast, me, you tell me Ed. Entitled Dad M. Entitled Mum PK1 and AMP PK2. Poor kids maybe 5 and AMP semicolon 6 years old don't really have a part in this aside from being stuck with their parents millimeters. Macca's manager story. Now we decided to stop for food and to stretch our legs as being cramped up in a car is a pain. We stop at a Macca's and I take my child into the one parent's change room that they have. It's a small country Macca's, so the fact that they even had a change room was amazing. Anyway, I've been in there for maybe 2 minutes at this point in time, and anyone who has or has needed to look after a 5-month-old knows how much of a pain they are to change, especially when they are starting to roll, so 2 minutes gives enough time to maybe get their pants off. Ed and M were already sitting down and eating by the time we walked in the door, but decided that, as soon as I took my son into the parents' room, that they wanted to use it. Well, Ed proceeds to try force open the door. Realizing it won't open, he abuses me through the door. Ed, honey, some stupid B.I**H is in the parents' room probably doing drugs or something. I don't even think the SL*T has a kid, and if she does, young mums shouldn't be allowed to use these rooms anyway. M***DECIDES. To try yank Dora's WELL** on, of course she has it locked. It's the only way she knows she's safe. If it was unlocked, I kick her and her kid's head in. Now I stayed quiet during this whole thing. I'm not one for confrontation, especially when my son is involved. But at this time my son hearing the yelling and banging is starting to cry. Ed, she does have a kid in there. The little SL*T couldn't keep her legs closed. There's real parents who need to change their kids. Yeah, no F*** ******* ing crackhead WH*** em. We'll just beat her head in. When she comes out she shouldn't even be allowed kids. Thankfully my partner was wondering what was taking so long, and after seeing them at the door went and got a manager. Now my partner is 6 feet 2 inches and built like a tank. He also didn't want to end up in jail, hence why he got the manager. Millimeters. Excuse me, but I need you to leave, Ed. It's not our fault you only have one parent's room. We shouldn't even be allowed to use a parent's room. Millimeters. What? That doesn't make any sense. If you shouldn't be allowed to use a parent's room, why are you making a fuss? Because we are parents. If we can't use it, neither should she. Millimeters. But she's a parent. Anyway, I now need you to leave the property or I will be calling the cops. But parents aren't allowed to use parents' rooms. Millimeters. Last warning, I have asked you to leave. Now leave. And Ed, but we haven't gotten our food yet. Forgetting that their finished meal was right on the table behind them. If we leave we want our money back. Millimeters. Okay, you need to leave. I am calling the police for public disturbance and harassment. Ed and take PK1 and PK2 and leave. Millimeters. You can come out now. Thank you for that. Didn't want to come out whilst I couldn't protect myself or my son. Millimeters. That's what I figured. You can have a free meal on us for the drama caused me. Thank you. We finish our meal and go outside to the car and we see and Ed, both with cuffs on in the back of a police car. Turns out that they both had warrants out for drug use and distribution and assault and theft. We left happy knowing that karma was served. Unsure of what happened to the kids, though I do feel horrible for them. Hopefully they don't turn out like their parents. Sorry for the anticlimactic ending, but entitled parents are worse in Australia. TL. Doctor parents angry they can't use the parents' room for their 5 and 6-year-old kids. Abuse me whilst I was in there with my 5-month-old son. Get served karma by getting arrested for drug use, distribution and assault and theft. My mother thought she was entitled to my sister and I, just because she's our mother. Long post. Get comfy. It's a bumpy ride. Long story. TD, LR at bottom, but this shit is a roller coaster, so buckle the fuck up. Little bit of pre-information. I'm 17 and I've had to work my ass off for everything I have. I've had to prove to myself and my father and stepmother that I want the things I'm striving for in life. Lost 40 pounds and going strong. So I know what trials and difficult parts of life are. I also know that the determination to be better than your parents is a thing. Now, information on my father. He's never been physically abusive or anything else. He spanked me as a child when I fucked up horribly but never took it too far and took things away, etc. But that's just normal parenting. It taught me not to do things and I still ended up doing stupid shit sometimes. Because I'm a dumbass. Anyways, I love my father and he is not the reason for this post. Stepmother, she's overprotective and hard-headed, but she cares, and she tries her best for my sister and I. She's called me names before, but stopped a while ago, after I had a long and serious fucking talk with my father and her about how it's fucking with head. And she has stopped since then. Now, the real insane parent, my mother. Everything started when my father and mother got married. She was verbally and mentally abusive to him, but he didn't see it. Then my parents had me. My father then went on a long deployment right after my mother had my sister. 10 months after I was born. When my sister was born, she falsely and purposely faked a medical problem with my sister and stuck her fingers down her throat, choking her and making the doctors resuscitate my sister because she was going into some kind of medical breakdown and might have died. She was never charged, even though there's photographic evidence. When my father came back, he had already found out about all of this because of letters from the hospital. He was overseas at the time. When he finally came back, the house was a disgusting disaster. She bought several animals and didn't take care of them. had forged my father's name on a car document and purchased it without him knowing. He divorced her. Should have been easy to get custody of my sister and I because she was so unhinged, right? Wrong. My father and mother took it to court like usual. But we got the worst judge in the state of California. Her nickname was the Devil Judge because she always sided with the mother. No matter how bad the mother was. My mother did not get full custody of us. However, she was allowed a phone call every evening to us at 7 p.m. and visitation on the weekends with a monitor. My grandmother was required to stay with us at all times to make sure we were safe. She took him to court about 2 times a month, sometimes more, and attempted to rob him of every penny he had. She played mental games with my sister and I, telling us what a bad person my father was and how he was trying to keep us from her. Let me clarify, he didn't want us to see her, that's true. But he never prevented us from calling her or going to see her. It was our choice. And I've never heard him talk bad about her once in front of us until my sister and I made the decision to tell her to fuck off. He showed us the court hearings and all the evidence of her wrongdoings. But he never told us to stop talking or seeing our mother. About 5 years ago my father moved us all across the country because he found a new job. His commute every day was 90 miles one way from UK PCA to Los Angeles CA, so we moved to the Midwest. About 3 years ago my mother attempted one last time to get at my sister and I and claimed to the California court system that my sister and I were kidnapped by our father. No, this is not a fucking joke, but luckily the judge who ruled over our hearings had finally retired and she, fortunately for my sister and I, was told by the California court system that the rightful guardian and parent of the children cannot kidnap their children. It's their choice where they want to go and be. The California court system no longer has jurisdiction over this case because we lived in Ohio. But she could move the case to Ohio and try there. Naturally she didn't even try. There was no point because Ohio courts would see her bullshit for what it was. Bullshit. Now my sister and I live in Ohio peacefully and happily with our step-mother, though I consider her my actual mother because she in all senses raised my sister and I and my father. My life is starting to kick off now that I've graduated and my sister is almost done with school. I've bought my own gaming systems and my phone and I'm able to drive. Life couldn't be better. TDLR, my mother was abusive and had munchors and by proxy and tried to hurt my sister as a baby to get her medical attention even though she didn't need it, and proceeded to mentally abuse my sister and I, forge my father's name on car and loan documents, and take my father to court every 2 weeks just so she could keep him drained. We moved away and now we are happy. P.S. Thanks for reading. If you read all the way through, this is essentially my life in a text post. Edit. To those who have been saying they hope my situation gets better. It's gotten a lot better, and I'm happy now in Ohio with my father, stepmother and sister.